Right, we're back, and we're back doing the, what am I doing today? Well, been up to the Arctic Circle and been back, and I've only had Finn a couple of months, as you know, but I've already got 10,000 miles on the vehicle, and I don't like that. It's bad on the oil in my book. Having said that, and I'm just glancing down here because down here I've got the instruction book to see. Now it says here, replace engine oil and filter. Interval in miles, 21,000 miles. Or 34,000 kilometres, which ain't good. It's not good, I tell you. And the reason it's not good is because oil's cheap and engines are expensive. And so if you have a lease gig, I suppose, and they're involved with changing the oil, then it's not going. It saves them a bunch of money, basically, is what it does, because they don't have to change the oil often. But in my considered opinion, and not that I know anything about anything, but in my considered opinion, engines are expensive, and when they get black, when the oil gets black, that's because it's got stuff in it. It's got debris and soot and builds up of all sorts of nonsense, all sorts of negative particles and all this kind of stuff. I do know the words for them, but I can't just bring them to mind for some reason or other. And changing your oil's easy. You just have to buy a little thing and suck it out, or drop the oil, or whatever you want to do with it, and away you go. And you shove some new oil in and a new filter, and problem's gone away. All that stuff that's in the oil, all that kind of those negative sort of particles, that junk that's mooching about, and those acids and things that the oil degrades into, they've all gone, you see. They've all gone because you've taken it out and you've put some fresh stuff in for, I don't know, $100 or whatever it costs you for oil. And so I change my oil every 5,000 miles. Now, that's probably a bit too much for most people, and it says here in the book 21,000 miles, and if you took it in part of the Land Rover sort of thing, that's what they'd do. I'm lucky I've got a dealership that'll change it when I want it changed, but it's easier to do at home. And so what I'm doing today is I'm going to show you how to change your oil. It's probably teaching you how to suck eggs here, but I'm going to show you how I change the oil. And that way you can see that it didn't that bad of a job, really, and you can just sort of get on with it. Now, I'm just going to turn the camera around so you can see what we're up to, and I'll show you what I've got going on here. Right, in this book that I'm trying to get this gimbal to show you, you can see here, this is at the back of the book, look, page 454, it says here, capacities, and this is your list of all sorts of stuff. And you can see here, second one down, engine oil, refill and filter change. And then it's got the two petrol engines. Now, those of you in other countries will have obviously a different option, won't you? Because you'll have the diesels and this, that and the other. But the reality of our sort of situation is that you've got these two and that's that. But look at this. 8.8 litres, that's nearly 9 litres of oil, that is, to put in this engine. It's a massive amount, and this oil's not cheap. So what they've got plenty of oil, it's got loads of oil in it, and away you go. So that's those two. Anyway, looking back up, if I can get this gimbal to come around with me. Come on, gimbal, play the part. Now, this is the engine, usual standard stuff. I've taken the cover off. Which you could probably see is just, if the thing will come around, it's over there, and I'll show you how it fits. But basically there's just 4 little receptors in the bottom of this plate here, so we don't need to look at that. And what you do need to look at is these little chaps here, he says, pointing where the gimbal's not looking. So this little chap here is one of them little, it's a sort of a thing that pulls in, and there's another one back here, can you see there, look, and then there's another one over yonder here, and then there's another one at the front here. And you just have to lift the cover off, he says, zooming out. You've got to lift the cover off with both hands. I can't do it because I'm holding gimbal in one hand. You've got to lift the cover off with both hands. You might have to give it a bit of a shake and it comes off. And then there's this bit of a rubber cover dude. And this rubber cover dude sits here like that. And it covers the filter. I'm not quite sure what the point of it is. I'm going to see if I can zoom in a little bit here, because it's all gone. Ooh, it's all gone a bit 10-100 again. And so this little rubber thing fits here. Now, I don't really know what the purpose of it is, other than to, sort of hold the filter housings and all that kind of stuff. But you take that off, and then you can see here you've got the filter housing with a nice little thing on the end. Now, Land Rover have probably made this in metric, but Firthy doesn't have a big metric socket, so Firthy's going to use this. And this is 1/16", he says, holding it wrong road up. 1/16". And so I'm imagining that it'll be the metric equivalent of 1/16", which will be, I don't know what it'll be, 27 or something, won't it? 28 or something? Anyway, this is a nice fit look. It's not going to do any harm there. There's only a touch of play, but nothing that you have to worry about. And then over here is the dipstick. Now, there's two ways to drain an engine of oil. First way, and the best way, is to go underneath and lift the sump plate, pull all that lot off, and then at the side of the what they call over here the oil pan, the side of the oil pan, you've got a drain plug. We'd call it a sump because we're English and we speak proper. So the side of the sump, there's obviously your usual sort of drain plug, and you just undo that and all oil falls out on the floor. But the other way to do it is literally to suck it out. Now I do both. So once every 10,000 miles, I'll drop the plate and I'll drain all the oil out, and then once every 5,000 miles, well, that's not right, is it? But every alternate 5,000 miles, I'll just drain the oil with this vac pump here. And the vac pump is this chap here on the floor. Look, it's a handy little gadget, is this? And I picked this up from Princess Auto, which is a bit like your average sort of, well, it's a bit of a fits-all thing, really. It's got all sorts of stuff on it. It'll do everything, really, but this has just got a handle. Now, it's got a fancy thing here for a vacuum, if you want to do that. I don't know whether it works by shoving air compressor on it or something. I've never tried, but it's got a bit of an handle, you see. Here's the handle. And what you do is you pump this, and it sucks all the oil out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how this works. I'm going to set it up, so just give me a second while I poke this with the bear, and we'll sort it all out, get all the hoses set up, and then I'll show you how it works. Right, now, first job, which isn't going to be easy, I'm going to have to swap hands here, is to, of course, take this filter housing off. Now, the reason you do that is because if you haven't got the right filters, you don't want to be draining the oil and then having to put old engine oil back in and an old filter and all that sort of stuff. So, first job, I suppose, if you wanted to do it right, he says, try to move this gimbal around so it can follow up, is fetch this filter out of your box. Here's the new one. Look, this is a LR part here. Look, 133455. So that's the thing, and it's got a couple of fancy O-rings on it. Look, and at the bottom it's flat. And then here is a green O-ring that presumably goes in housing. And this is the box that it comes in here, and we'll just double check this part, number 133455. Now, I've got these parts in the Land Rover filters, as you can see. Don't use out else, and I use genuine Land Rover oil, so that if you have to go back in and there's a bit of drama with engine, you can always say, yeah, no, I changed the oil, but I used the right filters and there's no warranty issue. Now, if you use other brands of filters, my spare wheel thing, look like that, they're no good, they aren't. Tried fitting the thing on my oversized tyres and it won't fit. So, what we do now is, he says, train. I'm going to see if I can do it with one hand. It's quite light, look. I haven't undone this before, but it hasn't got a lot of torque, so bear that in mind, because you don't want to be giving it too much when it comes up. Now, I've no idea how the oil comes out of here. It might all spill out in a right mess. But we'll just give this a bit of a spin. It's quite loose. Is this, and I dare say I could hold this now. So I'll take that off there, and then we'll undo this behind here, and we'll see what happens if a ruck of oil falls out on the floor. It'll be a bad day, won't it? No, it doesn't. Look at that. So, now pay attention to how it comes out, because you've got to put it back in that way. Look, now it's all oil's dripping out. Drippity, drippity, drip. So it comes out wrong road up. So the yellow bit and sort of purple bit go in first, and then there's the oil bit that falls in there. It's black already, isn't it? It's not good, that. Then I turn it upside down, stop it leaking. Then we take it over yonder here. Gimbal's not doing a bad job of keeping up, is it? You can see I've got blue rag ready, look. This is called shop towel. I'm telling you all suck eggs, but just in case you don't know, this is called shop towel, and it's quite good stuff, really. It's sort of a bit like a kitchen roll, but better. Anyway, so this is the filter, and I'm going to just undo it. There's a fly on my filter housing. Look, how's that got there? It's a mosquito. That's one down and 1,000 to go, I guess. So I'm just going to pull this out here carefully if I can, and see if there's a. I can't. I need 3 hands. We'll just have a look, see if I can pull this out. Oh, it does just pull out. Right, it's a bit sticky, and you need several hands. And I need to get my gimbal to work. It's a bit sticky, and you need 2 hands, but you can just pull it out, you see, like that. Anyway, that's that. And in here we've got some sort of, just going to show you in here if I can, we've got some sort of clip in the bottom, and that's what it was fastened, stuck on. There's a bit of a thing in the middle. It's gone heavy, this. It's a bit of I'm looking at it, there's a bit of a thing in the middle. Let me see if we can do that. And there you see there's these little clips on side, can you see? And it's the same in this one here. There's the clips, I'll just get you lined up with camera. And we're all tip top. Right, so we know the filter's good, at least it's good enough for 30. So now what we'll do is, if I can make this camera do what I want it to do. Come on, gimbal. There's me firewood for winter. Now, next thing is to shove this plastic tube, which is my sucky out bit. We shove that in the dipstick here. We'll just pull that out like that, and we'll drop that. It's quite long, isn't it? We'll just drop that there nicely on our cloth so we don't get dirt everywhere, or oil, should I say. And then we'll feed this tube into the dipstick holder. It's quite hard to do with one hand, is this. Make sure it goes all the way down. And we're running out of pipe here, look. So we need to put this on a box. Yeah, there's an empty box in there, you see. Pop that up there. See if that helps. And we'll push this all the way in. Well, it won't be any more in than that. He says I don't think it'll do any more than that. I think that's as far in as it goes. How far would you say that we're in? There you go. And then we set this valve, block this valve off, and basically start sucking. And it'll suck all this dirty engine oil out. Here it comes, look, there it goes. In there, 10,000 mile oil. Now, I should mention to you, and I'm sure you know this already, but what I've done, give it a bit of a build up now. I don't think this holds 10 gallons or whatever it is. Fill to the line, it says here. Well, I will if I'll show you. It says fill to that line. Don't take it beyond there, but I can't just remember how much it holds. Anyway, what I have done is I should mention to you that the engine's warm. This is at operating temperature, so this is at the sort of normal engine temperature, and suck the oil out. And I always leave the filter off at this point, because I like it to, dribble back. If it can get the air in there, dribble back, and then suck this out. So I'm just going to pause this now, this video, while this is sucking this out, because this oil looks a bit thick. And I should tell you that we're adding genuine Land Rover oil. Pay no attention to this, it says coolant in it here, but that's not got coolant. L322 020s, and 020s is the right stuff for this, and it's winter time. Now, Land Rover have told me, and Land Rover say they know what they're talking about. Land Rover told me you can put in 530s in the summer. The engine's coded for both, but this is just the oil, the same oil that the Lion engine used, which is this Castrol Edge Professional. And I don't normally buy it in this, but they have it bulk in these little tubes, these little tins. They buy it bulk, and so what they do is I take a bunch of them up, and they fill them for me. So that's why we've got a random assortment of various different kinds of bottles of things. Anyway, there we go. I'll leave this with me while we fill this oil thing up, and then I'll come back once it's full. I can trim that. Now, I've got the marvellous tarring, because it's really hard It's not easy to do the things with one hand. I'm struggling to do the things, so I've yelled at Darren. I said, Darren, can you come and help me, please? So Darren's now fancy camera operator. And I'm just going to show you a few things. Now, my thing's made a bit of a noise here, and what happens is when it runs out of sort of suck, like this, it starts to make a funny noise, but we'll leave that doing that. I do this a couple of times. And the reason that I do one sump off every I do 5,000 miles and take sump off and drain oil, and then 5,000 miles and 10,000 miles do this, and then again at 15,000 I'll take sump off. And the reason for that is because you can't just get it all out, no matter how hard you try. You can't just get all the oil out, you see, because you don't get to the bottom of the thing. What I am going to do is just stick this under here and see if I can get a bit more height on the thing. So keep going to suck all the oil out. But while that's doing that, I've asked Taryn to come here because I wanted to show you that right on the top here, if she can get in here, and first time operating this gimbal, so she's likely to do a better job than me. Right around this edge here, you can see there's dirt and bits of mosquitoes and a bit of engine oil and stuff like that. And I don't like that. I like to keep it all clean. So I'll get my fancy blue rag and I just stick my finger in. This is where you get... Now, a good man would recommend that you wear them blue glove things, whatever you call them. Like surgical gloves or whatever. But seeing as I'm not a good man, I'm just going to get my fingers in. Dermatitis is caused by shoving your hands where things shouldn't be. And when I used to work as a diesel engineer, they were quite fussy about dermatitis, because when I used to work when I worked on machines, the coolant that they used really aggravated your hands and made a right mess of everything. So they were right funny about it, and they used to have to actually get all these fancy gloves and whatever to avoid it, and creams and special cleaners for your hands and whatever. And I'm currently nursing a bit of a sore hand as it is, because we were fiddling about with father-in-law's shed yesterday, and it was -10 outside, and my fingers have split, but this bit of engine oil probably do it some good. Anyway, so you can see here now what I've done is I've got it nice and clean here, got all the bugs out of it and all the dirt and debris, and the reason for that, one of the reasons for that, is to keep these mating edges nice and clean and stop when you screw this filter down on. Now just Taryn's going to look at that all, but what I've done here now, if you look at this casing, what you can see is there's a green O-ring here. Now Land Rover kindly provide you for your $73, they kindly provide you with a fresh one, which is very good. And you should always change them, really, if you can. And a lot of people used to say to me, well, if it's doing its job, you should just leave it be, and then you won't disturb it and you won't mess it about. But in my experience, a fresh seal on the job isn't going to do anybody any harm. So just give this a bit more of a wipe here. Just clean this up with my best blue rag. This stuff's marvellous. It's almost for free, but it doesn't break apart when you fettle about with it like a kitchen roll wood, or whatever they call it over here, kitchen towel or something they used to call it. You don't need to use a knife, but you could use a bit of a screwdriver. It doesn't matter, because you're going to throw this away, so if you cut it off, it's not the end of the job. But you can see that this green thing started to deteriorate because the oil sort of attacked it a bit, and we're going to have to clean that up a bit, because you want those faces where the thing meets to be nice and clean. You won't be able to get it all off, of course, because it's sort of eaten into plastic. But you've got to do your best job. I'm getting tapped here because Taryn says that when I'm on camera, she says, I go very broad. I go back like home.
There's actually a hair on your back.
Oh, is there hair on me back? All right, Taryn's cleaned the hair on me back. Thank you. Doesn't she sound lovely? That's that Canadian twang. They've got a nice sound to them. So there's a bit of a green thing here. Now, looking at it, I can't just tell you whether this is actually a mark of the O-ring that's come off here, where it's been got hot or something, or whether it's sort of just a mark to tell you what colour O-ring you need. They're probably telling you, oh, there should be an O-ring here. Fit the O-ring. So I'm going it's clean and it's dry, and you can tell with your fingernail, if you run your fingernail up it, you can tell there's no sort of sticking there. There's no roughness or anything. You can't sort of see or feel any kind of no interference, and then I'll just give these threads a bit of a quick clean with my best finger and my shop towel here to get the debris out of there, so that you don't wind sort of junk into your housing. I just like to have things nice and clean when you're doing them, you know, and then you know where you're at, don't you, because the job's clean. Right, so that's that filter housing ready, and I'll just pop that there. And then what we'll do is we'll just have another quick pump on this machine to see if we can get any more of this old engine oil in. You've got to do this a few times, because you can't just get enough pump in here to sort of suck everything out, and then the last bit, of course, drops back into the engine. Right, so that's making that funny noise again. So here's my fresh oil filter, and here's my old one. Let's just keep the old one away now. Ouden, we've sort of shown you it's the same size, but can you see how the paper's become all warped and buggered about because it's got hot and out oil in it, and it's heavier because it's got all the debris in it. It's also got bits of oil in it, but it's heavier because it's got debris in it. Just have a look in the bottom to make sure there's nout in there, and then we'll drop our new filter in. There you go, just as simple as that. And then we'll take the fresh oil thing here, which is new one, and then we'll drop that over the top, because it's very important to make sure that you have the O-ring in position, or else it'll leak oil everywhere. So just drop that in. And you can put this on, I suppose, before you put the filter on. It doesn't really matter, you're not going to do it in the arm. One road or other. Just wipe that around like that. Make sure it's a nice seal. Give it a bit of a spin so it sits right. Make sure these are free with your fingers. And then I'm going to go over behind Terry here as she spins around with gimbal to try and catch up. And this is my fresh oil. And what I do is I just dip my finger in it. And you can do this with gloves on or not, and you just pop a little bit of oil around this seal, and it just stops you catching it on anything like the metal and sort of dragging it. These O-rings are massive and you won't damage them, they're big thick things, but it's just old habits, and it just allows you, it's just that little bit of slide, isn't it? Just let the thing slide in. Put this back on here just so in case the kayak falls off, it doesn't knock everything everywhere. Again, we had a bit of a tragedy earlier on. We're in here trying to set up for this video, and I'm just asking Terry to help me off with the light bar. I'm fitting fresh, steady light bar in a minute, and bloody kayak fell out at roof. Right, so that's ready to go on. I'll leave that for a second. I'll have another quick pump on my machine to make sure we get just as much out of here as is possible. And you can see, well, perhaps you can't see, but as I start to pump here, I'm just going to see if I can just shove that a little bit further in that hole. I'm running out of ice here. You stay looking at that hole while I try and find something to shove this thing on here. I'm not going to use that. I think best bucket on the job now. Right. Have another try. Now, you can tell by the noise, and if you look in here, you can see that it's dragging air through, because there's clearly not very much oil left at the bottom of this hose thing that I've got shoved in here. And so as the oil's sort of coming up, it's also bringing that with it. Now, I did have a thought while I was shoving this in here. I couldn't feel it hit bottom, if you see what I mean. And so I am marginally thoughtful that my hose might be a bit too long and might be curling up inside the sump housing. But I don't think that's the case, because as I drag this back, I'm definitely sucking nothing but air here. I'll shove that hole in. Oh, we've got a bit more, look now. Now I must be somewhere live, because this is full. And it was nearly full with L322, and that had 7.8 litres in it. And I bet another 2 litres, another litre or so, and we'll be there. So I think we're not so far off. Now, like I said, this isn't the method that gets all of your oil out, but it is the method that Jaguar Land Rover use when they do their services. So you're doing now, if you don't drop the pan and drain the oil out of the sump, you're only doing what Land Rover do any road, so you're not skipping anything here. But just, I think this will be my last attempt here, because I think we've dragged pretty much all there is to drag out. And then what I do is I just disconnect here, which is my union between one piece and the other. Shove my thumb over the end while I get it out so I don't drag it over my nice paintwork. Put that out of the way so I don't knock it off. Leave that sort of up in the air for a minute, and then I'll pull this chap out here, and you can see how long this is. Quite a length is that. And then I'm just going to put this back in here so it doesn't leak, and then drop it back in my box, ready for next time. Give my hands a bit of a clean and shove this filter back its hole and fill it up, basically. Take the filter, just have a look down there to make sure you haven't shoved anything. Now it's a bit dirty in there, so I'm just going to give the threads a bit of a wipe. It's only got a bit of whatever debris engine's been kicking around, and it would have protected, the filter's protected obviously the intake, but there's a bit of something in there that I didn't like. It might just be oil. And then just with your fingers you have to just make sure this seat's right. Now if you go, can you see, if you go too hard, what happens is that you might strip the threads on the filter housing, or you might just be a bit too hand-fisted and get them cross-threaded or something. Just make sure it's nice and just a nice touch to it. This bar's a bit on the long side really, but if you remember rightly, he says knocking me a bit of foam about. If you remember rightly, there weren't a lot of pressure on it, so I'm just going to give it a bit of a nip and give it a wipe round, and then we've done. Now, it's very important at this point, Stephen says, to write down on his board here, look, this is fin, and then the date is the 24th of the 10th, 10,000 miles even, oil and filter. And then I keep these here and I know where I'm at. You can tell this is a fresh machine. There you go. And that is that. I'm not used to looking at this sort of side of the camera. I'm always used to looking at the other end. Thanks very much, Darren, for doing this. Now, just before we go, I suppose I better just show you how to shove the oil in. Now, here's the filter. Look at the cap. If you look in the cap, you can see there's a bit of a mark there. That's heated oil that's sort of found in the top there. And you used to get, right years ago, you used to get condensation gunk that was a function of oil getting hot and having air and stuff in it and water. And I don't like it, so I clean it out every time. But it's not unusual. It's not unusual. That was my best Tom Jones impression. Did you like that? It's not unusual. It's not unusual to have any gunk on the bottom of this cap. But I have suddenly remembered that I've rummaged around in garage this past couple of days and I can't remember what I've done with my best oil thing. I've been messing around with cars all my life, and look at the thing I've got to pour engine oil in with. It's the only filter I've got, and it's the only funnel I've got, and it's the only one I've ever had. And it's look at the state of it. It's out of army look. I don't know whether it meant to be like this or whether it's out of 1900s. Somebody's welded that together there. Right, now in this they've given me 1 US gallon here, which as we know is 4 litres and not 4.5 litres. And that just tells you, just dip your finger in just to make, yeah, that's the right stuff. And that just tells you the Americans can't add up really, amongst other things. Now that should be the colour of your engine oil. Now mine's only been in for 5,000 miles because before I went up to the Arctic, I had a service up at Land Rover in Calgary, and they put in fresh Glug for me. And this is the end of the stuff. I mean, this is as good as it gets. So this should be the colour that it goes in, and it in. Now, back in the day, I used to have engine oil by Castrol. By Fuchs, that was it, Fuchs engine oil, and it was my favourite. And engine oil, this is synthetic stuff that we're putting in here, Land Rover's Super Duper Air Castrol Edge Professional. Other oils are available. There is rumour on the streets that the Mobile 88 or whatever it is just as good, and that's the stuff they use on the L322 and all of that kind of stuff. Now count up, that's 4 litres that's gone in there. And they say that this Mobile stuff, Mobile 1 stuff, is just as good, if not better, than this Castrol. But this is a brand new car, as you know, and it's still under warranty. And so if Land Rover tells you you've got to use this Edge Professional fully synthetic motor oil with whatever it meets, some things it meets JLR 03 5003, that's the stuff. If you've got to use that, you've got to use that. And if it costs you $100 for oil or $200 for oil, then put the oil in. And then when it's out of warranty, you can put in whatever rubbish you want. But just for now, you've got to have right junk in, haven't you, while it's under warranty, and then there's no quibbles. When you take it back and it's got the right parts and the right bits in it, and they go, oh yeah, no, it's not that. Well, I'll give you a new engine, Mr. First, I'm sorry. You never say that, do they? Oh, we can't do anything about it. That's what Land Rover says. Can't do anything about it. You must have spilt that. You must have used it improperly. You can't be using these Land Rover. I once, my first 90, my Defender 90 that I had, was the first brand new Land Rover I had. And I used to use it while I was as a agricultural contractor, and it had a bit of an hard life really, towing trailers and God knows whatever else about, as Land Rovers do on farms, and towing tackle and bits of bloody fence panels and God knows whatever else. Any road. It broke down for fun. It was probably one of the worst Defenders I've ever had. And after about 8 months I sent it back and told them I didn't want it anymore because it broke down. It was with them more than I'd had it. Now how many have we got here? 4, 5, 6. This will be 7. It broke down more than I had it, and I took it back to the guy, and we had a big row at Guy Salmon. And the fella says, well, you can't be using your Land Rovers to tow agricultural trailers through fields. I said, that's the point of them. What do you mean you can't be doing that? What else would I use? A Toyota? No, I don't want you to do that. I said, well, you're not helping, are you? So what have we got here? We've got 4, that's 8. And so we'll have to put 0.8 in here, which is easier said than done. So we'll put half in. It's got a bit of a thing on the side, look, can you see? It's got a bit of a scale, which does help, but the reality is that they're about as accurate as a... We want 8.8 litres, it says on the tin. But you have to remember that when you start it up, it'll pump some around that filter, and the filter will suck up a bit. So that's about 8.8, I'd say. 8.8 litres, it says in the book. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to start it up. I'll put this in just to stop it spitting things out. Just start it up. Here's my dipstick, look, that I pulled out. Shove the dipstick in, and then it won't fire anything out now. Make sure that your little O-ring is still on your dipstick, or else the engine will have air ingress from the wrong place. Now, right about now, the engine changes noise. That's because my phone's connected to the car, because I've eventually switched it on. But while it's making a sort of a funny noise, I'll tell you this because it's sort of fairly important. When you start the car up, it's kind of important not to rev it too hard, because the oil sort of still just sort of working its way in, and although there's plenty of oil in the engine, it's always advisable when the top's been sort of drained a bit not to rev it. so that there's no damage to the engine. So just let it idle and then switch it off. Now I heard a bit of a tapping noise there, which is usually some sort of sign that you haven't got the right amount of oil in, or the oil's not in the right place. But we'll let it settle for a minute and switch all its beepy things off, and then we'll just wipe the dipstick, which has been splattered by the oil as the oil's mooched about the engine. And so you always have to wipe it before you take a measurement, and I'm not doing a very good job of getting this back in here. I'm a 30. And then now we very carefully have a look, and you'll see here that we're just below that little, here's your mark, look, here's your upper mark, there's your lower mark, and in the good light, I don't know whether Taryn can see that, but you can see we're just a touch shy here of the thing because it's filled up, so we've clearly got the right amount of oil out, or as damn near as much oil out as there is to take out, so that's alright. And we're putting in just a little bit more than 8.8 litres, which is, I suppose, acceptable under the circumstances. When the engine starts, I'm steady here, I'm trying to let Taryn go for she's got to go out to that, she's doing partying with some work people. If you're not careful, what you end up doing is when you start the engine, of course it throws the oil pump, throws the oil all over the top of the engine, and it throws it into the valve body and all the rest of it underneath the rocker cover, all around the oil, and fills up all the tubes and all these sorts of things. And if you spread it, if you measure it too quickly, the engine oil is all at the top of the engine. It hasn't had time to drain down into the sump, if that makes sense. So we'll just have another check on this thing here and see how we are here. Now you can just see it's come up a bit. Can you see that? It's just at the edge of the crosshatch. Can you see that? All right, that's champion. So we're not so far off here, and I think it's always better to be within that thing than over the top. So I'm going to leave it as it is, because if I add any more, there might be a chance to overfill it, and I'm certainly within the range. And I'll come back now in the next hour or so while I'm fitting this light bar on the front. I will attempt to check later on, make sure it's spit spot, and I can always add a touch then, but it's fine now because it's within the good part of the thing. Anyway, that's it. So there you are, pretty much oil service done on your Land Rover without screwing underneath. And as I said, I would suggest that you do one screwing underneath every sort of second oil change, so you get all that gunk out of the bottom. But the oil's nice and clean as it comes on the thing, so we've got most of it out, and we've put 8.8 litres in, which is what it said we needed. So we've obviously got pretty much all of the oil out, or else it'd have been over full. And starting it up, the oil's come clean on the dipstick, which means that if there was any oil in there, there wasn't enough there to make to colour the rest of the oil. So, and then putting while I've got Taryn here, all done in here now, we'll just double check. It's always wise this, people never do this, to do a job and they don't think while they've got it all stripped down. So just check, just have a look at these little sensor wires, make sure there's nothing trapped, make sure there's no plugs coming off, make sure everything's sort of back in its right way. Just if you've got an older car, just have a look at your hoses, anywhere there's a hose, see if there's a split or a mark or a crack or the clamps are breaking. While you've got it all stripped down, have a look. Now this is a very important bit here. This bit on the P400, this bit is your handbrake release. You pull this bit of a dude and the handbrake comes off. Now you need that if ever you get stuck somewhere and you want to push it and you can't start it up, your battery's dead, you can't take it off, you need this. And this sits right at the top. Now on the P400, follow my finger, the P400 is down here somewhere. You've got, there you are, and use your button. You've used, no, that one. No, that one. That one, yeah, that's it. The P400 is down here somewhere. And it's the same it's the same thing actually, it's just in a different place as P400. The P300 is down here, the smaller engine is down here. But right on the P400 it's up here on the top. So have a quick look, make sure there's nothing catching, there's nothing, all your clamps are in, everything's right. Just have a quick look, because it's quite easy for things to come out, and it's quite easy for this to happen brand new as it is for happen when they're older. So just have a quick look then. Pop your little thing back on, And you get your big Ingenieur engine sound deadening cover thing. And you find your little holes which are under here. You've got to put this in a bit like this because it won't go in like that. It sort of sneaks under the back there a touch. And then just feel so it's nice and then push it down. And then you're not in the right place for the are you? Mop it. There you are. You can just feel it sort of seat nice and neat and it stays there. And it's a bit of a bear to pull off. Anyway, there you go. Do the right thing and give the engine cover a little bit of a wipe down here just to make it look like you care for it. All this dirt and stuff. And then you're done for the job. The engine oil's changed. Make sure you make a note of it or else you'll forget. And then 3,000 miles later you'll be like, when did I do that? There you go. Thanks very much for tuning in. See you next week. Cheerio!